So network scheduling. What is network scheduling? Network scheduling is a technique used for planning, scheduling large projects in such a way that it minimizes the trouble spots, such as delay in project, interruption in projects by determining the critical factors and coordinating various parts of overall job. These techniques provides the control at different stages of the project so as to complete the project before schedule time and also minimize the cost. So the basic purpose of network scheduling is to minimize the cost and time as well as to determine the trouble spots. But determination of trouble spot is not the scope of this lecture. So we will discuss how we schedule the activities and minimize the time or cost so that the project complete within that time. There are a number of techniques which can be used for the same, but the main network scheduling technique are called as critical path method and project evaluation and review technique, that is called as PERT. Critical path method is called as CPM and project evaluation and review technique is called as PERT. So first discuss the terminology used in the network analysis or network scheduling. First term is activity. Activity is task which is to be performed or a work which is to be done which consumes time, effort, manpower, money or other resources. That means that work or task which consumes some resources are called as activity. Activity is represented by the arrow, that is this one. Second is predecessor activity. Predecessor activity is the activity which starts before the which complete before the start of next activity. That is an activity which must be completed before the start of one or more activity is called as predecessor activity. Next is successor activity. The activity which starts after the completion of one or more activities is called as successor activity. Then event. An event represents the start or completion of an activity which does not consume time, manpower, or any other resource. That means the work or task or point which does not consume time, effort, manpower, money, or other resources is called as event. Event is represented by encircled numbers generally. Let us consider this network diagram. In this network diagram, we have three activities A, B, and C, and four events 1, 2, 3, and 4. Since B start after the completion of A, so B is the successor of activity A. Similarly, C starts after the completion of activity B, so C is the successor activity of activity B. Similarly, A complete before the start of activity B, so activity A is called as the predecessor activity of activity B. Similarly, B complete before the start of activity C. Therefore, activity B is called as predecessor activity for activity C. So the activity which completes before the start of next activity like A and B are called as predecessor activity, and the activity which starts after the completion of one or more activity is called as successor activity. Now we come to looping. If an activity is represented as going back in time, then a closed loop will occur. This closed loop will produce an endless cycle. For example, let us consider this diagram. First, activity A goes from event 1 to 2. Then activity C goes from event 2 to 4. Then activity D goes from event 4 to 3. And then activity B goes from 3 to 2. That means backward, in backward direction. So BCD forms a closed loop, which will provide an endless cycle. That means project start at 1, then goes to 2, then 4, then 3, and then again come back to 2. That means the process will repeated a lot of number of times. Such loops are avoided in network scheduling. Now rules for network construction. For network scheduling, we require to construct the network diagram for which certain rules are followed. First rule states that each activity should be represented by one and only one arrow. There should not be more than one arrow for same activity. Events are numbered to identify an activity uniquely. Tail event of the activity must be lower than the head event. For example, in previous diagram, we have denoted three activities A, B, C, joining the events 1, 2, 3, and 4. So activity A can be represented as 1, 2, or B can be represented as 2, 3. That means uniquely defined by the head and tail events. So a particular pair define a particular activity. So number should be unique. Each activity is identified by pair of its starting and ending events, which implies that two activities should not be identified by same pair of events. Between any pair of nodes, there should be one and only one activity. Arrows should be kept straight and not curved. But if required, we can bend it, but we cannot represent them as curved. Event number should be unique. Event numbering should be carried out in sequential manner from left to right. The initial event, which has all outgoing arrows and no incoming arrow, must be numbered as 0 or 1. That means starting event from which we start should be numbered as 0 or 1, and it have no incoming activity. Similarly, last event have all incoming arrows and no outgoing arrows. So it should be numbered as highest number in the network scheduling. And there is one more rule which is not written in the slide, which states that there should be only one start event and exactly one end event. If there are more than two start or more than one start and more than one end events, then join these events to one. Now, for example, we construct the network diagram for the following set of activities. Here we have 11 activities A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, and K, and their predecessors are maintained. So for starting the construction of network, we start with event, then draw first activity which doesn't have any predecessor. So here we can see A and B doesn't have any predecessor. So we start with activity A and B. So here event 1, then A has no predecessor, we draw activity A which ends at event 2. Similarly, activity B doesn't have any predecessor, so we draw from one another activity B which is ending to event 3 in this manner. Now A is predecessor of activity C, so from event 2 activity C will be started. That is, A is completed and now next activity will be started. So then activity C which ends at event 4. Then B is the predecessor of D. So from B, D is drawn, that is D starts from 3 and end at event 5. Now C is predecessor of activity E, F, and G, whereas D is predecessor of G. So first we draw E and F from C or event 4. So here activity E and activity F, which are ending at event 6 and 7 respectively. Now we use one more type of activity which is called as dummy activity, which doesn't consume time, and if required for the construction of network diagram, that is introduced by us. So we use here dummy activity since for G predecessors are C and D both. Then we join C and D, that is event 4 and 5, by a dummy activity. But if we join dummy activity from D to C, then D will also become the predecessor of activity E and F. So first we add two dummy activities, D1 and D2. One is from C and one is from D, and join these at event 8 and draw next activity G, which ends at event number 9. Now F and G are the predecessor of H. So F and G and events will be joined by dummy activity, that is D3. Then from 9 start activity H, that is this one. Then E is predecessor of I. So from E draw activity I in this manner. Then I is predecessor of J, draw an activity J from event 11, which ends at 12. And H is predecessor of K, so from H draw another activity which is K. Now this is the network diagram, but it is not correct. That rules said that dummy should be as minimum as possible. That means we should not use a large number of dummies. Second rule states that there should be no more than one end events. So here we can see that there are two end events, 12 and 13. We will join both the activities J and K at same event. So the end event will become 1. Now we come to the dummy activities, how we reduce it. So here you can see F and G both are predecessor of H, and individually these are predecessor of none activity. So we can join F as well as G at same event. That is from 4 to 9 we draw an activity F directly. Similarly here D1, among D1 and D2 we can reduce one dummy activity, and the head of arrow will be from C to D. If we put arrow from D to C, then D will become the predecessor of E and F also, which is not correct. So we draw the arrow from C to D. That means head of dummy activity will be towards D or event 5. That means first A, B, C, and D. Then from C, E, and F. Sorry, from C there is dummy activity T1, and then from C to F and D to G, two activities are drawn. So here you can see two dummies D2 and D3 are removed. Now then we go in forward direction to H, I, and J, and J and K are joined at same event. That means event 11. So in such manner, we construct the network diagram which follow all the rules of network construction. That means only one start event, only one end event, dummy are adds, number of dummy activities are as small as possible. No activity is going backwards, that means no loop is formed. Network construction is done in such a manner that loop should not be formed. Now we come to the critical path method. The critical path is an activity in a network is said to be critical if the delay in starts will further delay the project completion time, as well as delay in its end will delay in the project completion time. That means in critical activity, if we delay one unit, then project completion will also delay one unit of time. Such activities are called as critical activity. A non-critical activity allows some scheduling slacks so that the start time of the activity may be advanced or delayed within limits without affecting the completion of the project. That means the change in start and end of activity causes the delay in the project are called as critical activity, and the activities for which delay in start or completion does not affect the project completion time are called as non-critical activities, provided that delay occurs within a specified limit. The uninterrupted path formed by the critical activities is called as critical path. The objective of critical path method is to estimate the total project duration and to assign starting and finish time to all the activities involved in a project. This helps in checking actual progress against the scheduled duration of the project. For purpose, the two methods are used simultaneously. These two methods are used for assigning the start and finish time of the activities, and the time duration of start and end, sorry, the time for finish of the last activity will be the called as duration of the project. These two methods are forward pass calculation and backward pass calculation. In forward pass calculations, some steps are used which says set earliest occurrence time for event 1 as 0. That means E1 is taken as 0. Then second step states that set the earliest start time from each activity that starts at event I using ESIJ is equals to EI. That means the earliest start time for activity which starts at event 1 should be 0. That means in previous network diagram we can say that for activity A as well as activity B, the earliest start time will be 0. Then compute earliest finish time for each activity that starts at event I using the formula EFIJ is equals to ESIJ plus TIJ, or you can say EI plus TIJ, where TIJ is the duration of the activity and EFIJ is earliest finish time of the activity. Next step states that move to the next event, say J, and compute its earliest occurrence time using that EJ is equals to maximum of EFIJ. Similarly, backward pass calculation is done in backward direction. So we start with the last event and its steps states that set the latest occurrence time for last event as its earliest occurrence time. That means if we have n activities, then we can say the earliest occurrence time of event n, that is En, is equals to the latest occurrence time of last event, that is En. That means ln is equals to En. Then in backward direction, so first set the latest finish time for each activity which ends at event J using LFIJ is equals to ln or LJ. So in same manner, we have 11 events in the network diagram which we have constructed, and we have 11 events there. So we put L11 is equals to E11. Next step states that compute the latest start time for each activity that ends at event J. So we are moving in backward direction. So latest start time can be obtained by subtracting the duration of the activity from its latest finish time. That means LSIJ is equals to LFIJ minus TIJ, and LFIJ is equals to LJ. So we can write LSIJ is equals to LJ minus TIJ. Now we compute the latest occurrence time for the event I using Li is equals to minimum of LSIJ. The activity for which EI is equals to Li, EJ is equals to LJ, and EJ is equals to EI plus TIJ, that are called as critical activities, and path formed by them are called as critical path. Now before going to example, first more some formulas which are called as floats. Float of an activity is an amount of time by which it is possible to delay its completion time without affecting the total project duration or total project completion time. Floats are of two types, which are called as event float and activity float. Event float is also called as slack. It is used to measure the amount of time by which the occurrence of an event can be delayed. It is defined by slack is equals to latest occurrence time minus earliest occurrence time. The events which occur at critical path for that event float or value of slack will always be 0. Activity float are of three types. First one is called as total float. Total float of an activity represents the amount of time by which an activity can be delayed without delay in the project completion time. That means the delay may occur in the start, may be within the process, or within or the completion of activity. Any at any of place we can delay the activity without affecting the project completion time. The total float is given by TFIJ is equals to Li minus EI plus TIJ. Sorry, LJ minus EI plus TIJ is called as total float for activity represented by events I and J. Second is free float. Free float is the part of total float within which an activity can be delayed without affecting the start of successor activities. That means successor activities should not be affected by the delay in the current activity. The free float is given by FFIJ is equals to EJ minus EI plus TIJ. That means latest finish time minus earliest start time plus duration of the activity. Third one is independent float. Independent float is the amount of time by which an activity can be delayed for start without affecting predecessor activities. That means the start of activity can be delayed, but its predecessors should not be affected. That means their completion should not be affected. Independent float is given by IFIJ is equals to EJ minus LI plus TIJ. For critical activities, all the floats will always be 0. Now, for example, construct the network diagram for following set of activities, obtain critical path and compute different floats. So I have taken the set of activities and its predecessor activities same as that was taken for the construction of network diagram, and duration of activities are for activity A duration is 3 weeks, for activity B duration is 8 weeks, for C duration is 9 weeks, and so on up to last activity K duration is 1 week. So we have draw the network diagram which will be similar to the previous one. So I am not explaining it. We have obtained this network diagram. Now we start the calculation of earliest start or earliest occurrence time for events or earliest start time for the activities. So rule we use forward pass method which said that put E1 is equals to 0. So here I have taken E1 is equals to 0. Now as second step sets assign the earliest, compute the earliest finish time and set the earliest occurrence time for events. So activity A, duration of activity A is 3. So for A, the earliest time will become 0 plus 3, that is 3. And for event 2, earliest occurrence time will become 3. That means E2 will comes out to be 3. Similarly, in 0, we add the duration of activity B, which will give the earliest occurrence time for event E. So it will comes out to be E3 is equals to 8. Now we come to C. Its occurrence time is 9. Its duration is 9 weeks. So we add 9 in E2, which will give the earliest occurrence time for E4. That is 12. Now for activity event 5, here two activities D and D1 are ending or completing. So we can set that here we take the maximum of these two. That is 8 plus duration of D, that is 6, which will comes out to be 14. And 12 plus duration of D1, duration of dummy activity is 0. So it will give 12. So maximum of 12 and 14 will be 14. So earliest occurrence time for event 5 will comes out to be 14. E5 will be 14. Now come to E. Here the only one activity E. So we add its duration into the occurrence time, that will give 10 plus 12, which is 22. So E6 will be 22. Now at 7, two activities F and G are finishing or completing. So we take again the maximum of E5 plus duration of G and E4 plus duration of F. So duration of F is 14, 14 plus 12 is 26, and duration of G is 11, and E5 is 14, so 14 plus 11 is 25. So among 25 and 26, maximum is 26. So E7 comes out to be 26. Now proceeding in same manner, E8 will comes out to be 36, E9 comes out to be 27. At 10, again two activities are completing. So we calculate from both the direction the completion time. The completion time of J will become 27 plus 4, that is 31. And completion time of K will become 36 plus 1, that is 37. So among 31 and 37, maximum is 37. So earliest occurrence time for event 10, that is E10, comes out to be 37. That is this one. Now we assign latest occurrence time to the events. So we use backward pass calculation. Here we set L10 is equals to E10. That is L10 comes out to be 37. Then move backward in backward direction. So subtract the duration from L10. So first activity is J. Duration of J is 4 units. So 37 minus 4, that will give 33. So L9 will comes out to be 33. Similarly, L8 comes out to be 36. Then move to H, which will give L7 26. Then in backward direction from 9 to 6, it will give L6 is equals to 28. Now we compute the earliest start time of activity E and F. So for activity F, there is 26 and its duration F is 14. So it will give 12. And if we compute for E, then 28 minus 10, that comes out to be 18. So finish start time for latest start time for activity F is 12 and latest start time for activity E is 18, among which minimum is 10. So our latest occurrence time of event 4 will be taken as 12. So L4 is 12. L5 will comes out to be 15. And it is also ending starting at 4. So we compute 3 start times. That is start time of activity E, start time of activity F, and start time of activity D1. So among these we take minimum. So start time for activity D1 will comes out to be 15. Start time for F comes out to be 12. And start time for activity E comes out to be 18. Among 12, 14 and 18, minimum is 12. So E4 is taken as 12. And then we move again for back in backward direction. So L3 comes out to be 9. E2 comes out to be, L2 comes out to be 3, and here 2 activities are starting. So in backward direction from 9 we subtract 8. So the start time for activity B will be 1 unit, and start time for activity A will be 0 units. Among 0 and 1 minimum is 0, so L1 is taken as 0. Now here you can see that the occurrence time and latest and earliest occurrence times are equal for event 1, 2, 4, 7, 8, and 10. So this path formed by activities A, C, F, H, K forms critical path. So activity A, C, F, H, K are critical activities, and path A, C, F, H, K is called as critical path, and its duration is 37, or we can say the duration of the project is 37 weeks. So after obtaining the critical path as A, C, F, H, K, now we calculate the different floats. So now the different floats would be computed, computation of event floats. For events float, we construct a table consisting of number of event, second column consisting of earliest occurrence time, third column consisting of latest occurrence time, and last column will be event float. Event float is the difference between latest occurrence time and earliest occurrence time, that is Li minus Ei. For first event, latest and earliest occurrence times are 0, so 0 minus 0 will be 0. So event float for first event is 0. For second event, earliest occurrence time is 3, latest occurrence time is 3, that is E2 is 3 and L2 is 3. So 3 minus 3 again 0. For third event, that is for link AB, sorry, 1, 2, 3, that is activity B. Earliest occurrence time was 8 units and latest occurrence time was 9 units. So the event float will be Li minus Ei, that will be 9 minus 8, that will give you 1. Similarly, for fourth event, latest occurrence and earliest occurrence time are both are 12. So 12 minus 12, that will be 0. For fifth event, similarly, earliest occurrence time is 14, latest occurrence time is 15, and the event float will be computed as 15 minus 14, which will give 1. Similarly, for all other events, we can compute the event float, and we have 9 events. Sorry, we have 10 events. So here you can see for event 3, event 5, event 6, and event 9, event float comes out to be positive, whereas for events 1, 2, 4, 7, 8, and 10, event floats are 0. So from this you can identify that these events are on critical path. For the events which are on critical path, event float always comes out to be 0. And for the events which are not on the critical path, event float not comes out to be 0. Now computation of activity float. So before going to activity float, we will go for its formula. Here you can see the formula for activity floats. These are the formula for activity flows. Total float is Lj minus Ei plus Tij. So for activity A, you can construct for activity floats a table which consists of activity, duration of the activity, earliest start time of activity, earliest finish time of activity, latest start time of activity, latest finish time of activity, then total float, free float, and independent floats for the activity. For activity A, or for any activity, the earliest start time will be EI and latest start time will be LI. Similarly, earliest finish time will be EJ and latest finish time will be LJ. So for activity A, duration is 0. Earliest start time you can see from the network diagram is 0. Earliest finish time is 3 units. Latest start time is 0. Latest finish time is 3. So total float is LJ minus EI plus TIJ, which will gives out to be 0 minus 3. Sorry, LJ, that is 3 minus EI 0 plus TIJ 3, that is 0 plus 3 comes out to be 3 and 3 minus 3 will give 0. So total float for activity A will be 0. Similarly, for free float formula is EJ minus EI plus TIJ. That means earliest finish time minus sum of earliest start time and activity of the duration. For activity A, earliest finish time is 3 units. Earliest start time, that is EI, is 0. TIJ, that is duration, is 3. So sum of 3 and 0 will be 3. That is earliest start time plus duration, that will give 3. And earliest finish time is 3. So 3 minus 3, it will also comes out to be 0. Similarly, for independent float, formula is EJ minus LI plus TIJ. That means earliest finish time minus sum of latest start time and duration. For activity A, latest start time, earliest finish time is 3, latest start time is 0 and duration is 3. So it's the sum of latest start time and duration will be 3 and EJ minus LIJ, EJ plus TIJ, that will give 3 minus 3, so comes out to be 0. So all the three floats, total float, free float and independent float for activity A is 0. For activity B, similarly we can calculate. So here you can see total float is 1, independent and free floats are 0. Similarly, for other activities, these values can be calculated. Here you can see the total float, independent float and free floats for the activities B, activity D, activity E, activity G, activity I and activity J are not 0. Whereas for the activities A, C, F, H, K, all the floats are 0. So here we can say that A, C, F, H, K lies on the critical path, or these are the critical activities, whereas other activities are non-critical activities. And for non-critical activities, at least one float comes out to be non-zero. However, here you can see free float and total float are positive, whereas independent float comes out to be negative. Negative float is not permissible. So if value comes out to be negative, then independent float is taken as 0. So here in place of -1, it will be 0, and in place of -6, it will be 0. That means both the floats will be replaced by 0. Now we come to project evaluation and review technique. The critical path method is used under the assumption that everything goes well. That is, however we assume the things to be gone, it goes in that way. But in real life, this is not possible. Some hurdles occur in a process which causes the delay in the process. So therefore, critical path method is not much suitable for obtaining the total duration of the path. In such situation, project evaluation and review technique is used. Under this technique, we use 3 different time estimates depending upon the distribution of the activities. Generally, this distribution of activities is taken as beta distribution. Here we consider 3 time estimates. One is optimistic time, second is pessimistic time, and third is most likely time. Optimistic time is the time under the best situation. That means everything goes in very well manner, and you are, for example, you are going on the road and road is free from the traffic. Then you can move as fast as you like. However, you cannot exceed the limit of speed, but you can go up to that limit easily, and you can reach to your destination in very few time. So that time is called as optimistic time. That is, everything is going well. Pessimistic time is the time in the worst situation. That is, for example, you are going to on a road and road is fully jammed. Then you move very slowly, and your speed will be near about 0 km/h. So in that situation, time time to reach for reaching your destination will be very large. So that's, in that situation, the estimate of time used will be called as pessimistic time. Third time estimate is most likely time. It occurs in very general condition. That means some traffic on the road, but you can move on average speed of 40 or 50 km/h, and you can reach on expected time. So that is called as most likely time. Now for activity, we need one time instead of three different times: optimistic, pessimistic, and most likely. So we use expected duration, which is obtained by using the formula TE is equals to TO plus 4TM plus TP upon 6. TO is optimistic time, TP is pessimistic time, and TM is called as most likely time. And T is called as expected duration for an activity. And since we are using word expected value, so if some variance or some standard error should also be assigned with it. So variance of the expected duration is given by sigma square is equals to TP minus TO upon 6 whole square. In part, the probability of completing the project on schedule time can also be computed, and this probability is given by probability the time is less than equals to schedule time is equals to probability z is less than equals to ts minus te upon sigma e. Ts is schedule time, t is expected duration of the project, sigma e is the variance of the project, which can be obtained by summing the variances of all the critical activities. That means we have to first find the critical path also. And z is called as standard normal variate. So using the table of standard normal distribution or using the formula of standard normal distribution, we can obtain this probability very much easily. So for example, I have taken this chart where activity, this table that where activity is given, their predecessor activities are available, then their its most likely time, optimistic time, and pessimistic times are available. So for computation of, for application of PERT, first we compute the expected duration of the activity. So expected duration of activity is 4 times most likely time plus optimistic time plus pessimistic time divided by 6. So it will comes out to be 4 into 8, that is 32, plus 4 36, plus 12 48. 48 upon 6, that comes out to be 8. So expected duration for activity A is 8 units. Similarly, for other activities B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, we can compute the expected duration by using same formula TO plus 4TM plus TP upon 6. And we have to also compute the variance of the expected duration for the activity, which is TP minus TO upon 6 whole square. So it will be 12 minus 4, that is 8 upon 6, that is comes out to be 4 by 3, and its whole square, that will comes out to be 16 by 9. Similarly, for activity B, variance will comes out to be 0. For activity C, variance comes out to be 1 by 9, and so on. Other variances are computed. Now using this expected duration of activity, the network diagram is constructed and critical path is obtained. So here you can see the for activity A and B, there is no predecessor. So first activity A and B are drawn. Then activity A is predecessor of D. So D is drawn from activity A and B both are predecessor activities of C. So one dummy is drawn from activity A towards activity B, or you can say event 2 to 3, and activity C and D are drawn. Since C and D both are the predecessor of common predecessor of two activities E and H, so both are merged on same event, that is both are completing on the same event C and D. Then from CD, E is drawn, from E, F and G two activities, then H, then C and D is predecessor of, sorry, F and G are predecessor of I, one dummy is constructed and I is drawn, then H will be end on last event, that is 8. Then earliest and latest occurrence times are computed using the expected duration of the activity, neither optimistic nor most likely nor pessimistic. We use expected duration of the activities, and in this manner, that is for using forward pass method, earliest start time or earliest finish time, or you can say earliest occurrence times are assigned to the activities and the events, and using backward pass method, the latest occurrence time for the events are assigned. Now for the events for which EI and LI are same, that are joined by double lined arrow, which will show critical path. So for the example, we have considered the critical path comes out to be A, D, E, G, H, G, I, J. That means activity A, D, E, G, I, J forms critical path. These are the 6 activities which are forming the critical path. So the critical path is this. Now variance of the duration is computed. Variance of the duration can be obtained with the help of the table. That is this table. Here you can see for activity 8, variance is 16 by 9. Variance of activity D is 25 by 9. These variances for the activities which are on critical path are summed. So using this, the critical path, sorry, the variance of critical path is obtained as sigma E square is equals to 16 by 9 plus 25 by 9 plus 1 by 9 plus 1 by 9 plus 25 by 9 plus 0. So this sum will comes out to be 25 plus 25, 50 plus 16, 66 plus 2, 68 upon 9. So it is the variance of the expected duration. Now we have to compute the probability that project will be computed within the completed within the 35 days. For this, we use the formula probability T is less than equals to TS is equals to probability Z is less than equals to TS minus TE upon sigma E. So what I have, okay, we have to compute, sorry, here by mistake I have written 35 and 45. I have, it is 33, that is project should, sorry, 37. This value comes out to be 37, that we have to compute the probability that project will be completed in the 37 days. The duration of the project comes out to be 33, that is T is 33, TS is 37 and sigma E is 68 upon 9. So the probability, this probability will comes out to be probability Z is less than equals to 4 into 9 upon 66, 68, or you can say that 36 upon 68 or 9 by 17. So using the table of normal distribution, this probability can be easily obtained, which is 0.7017. That is, there are 70% or you can say 70.17% chances that project will be completed within the 37 days.